even hear the name, so I don't know. I mean, but if I'm the Mets, I'm looking to get players from the Yankee system. It's one of the best systems in baseball.
And what happened? Sandy Alderson was going to do the deal, and
somebody vetoed it.
Junior Wilpon.
Was it? I didn't. To be honest, I didn't even read these stories.
Said he didn't want to do a deal with the Yankees.
That's stupid.
Yeah,
that's petty. I mean, and they got one prospect back from the Indians, which I assume means that they thought that one prospect was better than the two they were going to get from the Yankees.
Yes.
Which I kind of doubt. I saw this kid's numbers. He's been a career relief pitcher.
Part of the deal is that the Mets wanted the contract picked up, and the Yankees were only going to pay $1 million. So, but he doesn't have a great it's not like it's a huge contract. They just didn't want to pay it.
Well, I mean, he's still got, what, $3 million left or something like that. I forget. Yeah. I mean, Bruce's contract isn't outlandish anyway.
No, it's not. No,
especially for the production that he's given them.
So
I don't know. I don't see the reason. Like I said, Neil Walker to the Brewers the other day for a player to be named. Who knows? Who knows when we're going to hear who that is? But I will say this: the Brewers also a very good system. So if you're going to make a trade, try to trade with those teams that have the systems where, hey, we'll give you our 10th or 12th prospect. Well, you know what? In the Yankee system, that 12th prospect is probably the number 2 or 3 in another system. So that's a good way to go. And like I said, the Brewers, right now, as far as minor league systems go, it's probably the White Sox, the Braves, the Brewers, and the Yankees. Those are the top 4 systems in baseball, as far as I'm concerned. And if you can make a trade with any of those teams, hey, we'll see. I don't know what they're gonna get back for Neil Walker, but
we'll see what happens. Also, Derek Jeter is now technically part owner of the Miami Marlins. They overpaid. I'm sorry, the Marlins are not worth $1.2 billion.
Well, that's the going rate. What can you do, brother?
I know. But you know what bothers me about this, and it's just
you said they overpaid, but that's
I wish
was the number.
I wish Mushnick was here to enjoy the conversation I'm about to bring up.
Uh-oh.
If you remember a few years ago, the Marlins threatened to move. We need a new stadium.
Right.
We need a new stadium.
Right.
Well, they had a stadium. It was very nice. So,
it wasn't very nice.
But we need a new stadium. So they build them the stadium, and no one's going there anyway.
They're very low in attendance.
Very low in attendance, and it is the threat allowed the Marlins to get more money than if they
It's a taxpayer-funded stadium. Don't make any mistakes about that.
It's a taxpayer-funded buyout of the Marlins at the same time because of the money spent on the stadium, which increased the value of the franchise.
Right, and Jeffrey Loria is making a lot of money off of that stadium and everything else that's involved. So, and that's money that the city of Miami and the city of Florida are never going to see again.
No, they're not seeing it. And I don't know if they signed one of those deals where you have to pay a certain amount of money to stay and that you can't leave. I don't know if they have ever signed one of those deals, but I would have made that as part of the agreement that the Marlins are going to stay around for 30 years, and if they don't, they pay a certain amount of money or whatever. Because if you're going to sell the team, it doesn't matter.
Well, they were talking about from the sale about having an owner who was concerned about Florida, and I don't think that team is going to be moving anywhere. But they need to figure out how to make that team more attractive to the local community. Obviously, winning has something to do with it. That team hasn't won for a long time.
Miami's a fickle city. I hate to say it. It's very trendy. And right now, the Marlins aren't trending, so to speak.
Winning makes anything trendy.
But even when they win, it always seems like the people are there because they're winning, and not because they care about baseball.
That's like any town.
No, but
look at '86 with the Mets. How trendy were the Mets that season? Everybody was a Mets fan.
Also drew like 3 million people that year. So
that's my point. How many are they drawing this year?
I don't know.
Not a lot.
Probably over 1 million.
Over 1 million, of course. You wouldn't have a franchise if you weren't drawing 1 million. But my point being that as far as the Marlins go, local fans down there have been so conditioned to having at best a mediocre team. They need to build, and that's not necessarily meaning throw money at it like the Dodgers have been doing. They need to build a system and get, like, almost in some regards, do what the Yankees have done in terms of getting young talent and bringing it up through the system and building a franchise that way. The Marlins have done that with Giancarlo Stanton. They have another kid, Marcell Ozuna. They have a couple of promising pitching prospects in the minor league system. One of them is a kid, Tyler Kolek, who throws 100 but is recovering from Tommy John surgery. So there are pieces, but there aren't enough pieces. So the Marlins need to figure out how to balance Stanton's contract, which is enormous. It's, 13 years for 275 or no, 300.
Did Gloria know he was going to sell a team when he made that contract? I'm sure he did.
I'm sure he had an idea. And the guy's 76 years old, so I mean,
Gloria.
He wasn't going to be the owner for the life of that contract.
Right.
I mean, I don't even know if he's going to be alive for the life of the contract.
No, I doubt it.
But the point being that when you sign somebody to that kind of contract, it's like the Rangers with the A-Rod contract. It limits you as far as what you can do, unless you have a Dodgers or Yankees or a Red Sox kind of payroll. It limits you as far as what you can do around Stanton.
Right.
So to commit that much money to one guy, I mean, yes, he's a great player, and he's been phenomenal since the All-Star break. He's got something like 21 home runs in his last 39 games or some ridiculous number. He's hitting a home run almost every day. But the Marlins are limited, and Jeter is going to probably have to be the guy to figure it out because he's the guy that knows the most about baseball going into this.
We should say that Jeter supposedly is going to be running the team.
Yes.
I don't know if it's a day-to-day thing, but I assume he'll be part of that. Also, his percentage of ownership is actually very small. It's not Jay-Z small owning the Nets like when Jay-Z remember, he bought the Nets. Well, no, he didn't buy that. He had like half
1% or something like that. It was like
it's
an
like
absurdly small
Seinfeld
percentage.
and Bill Maher. They donate. Well, maybe it's a donation. they put $20 million into the Mets.
That was when Wilpon had his hand out. He was like, "Oh yeah, hey, buy a piece of the Mets."
They didn't say how much it was worth though, because
doesn't matter. He's an owner.
But technically, there's a percentage now that Bill Maher and Seinfeld. There's a couple others too.
Yeah.
Each price was $20 million.
Right.
So
that was when he was having his financial difficulties after Madoff.
He still has the financial problems because they wouldn't be dumping salaries the way they're dumping just for the hell of it. Just for the hell of it.
It's a situation now with the Mets where they're doing what any team does.
Yeah, dumping.
But they don't need these guys. They're not making the playoffs. So if you can save, the Mets are going to save with Addison Reed, Neil Walker, and Jay Bruce. Getting rid of those three guys, they just saved themselves probably more than $10 million. And if you can save $10 million, if your team is going nowhere, I want to save $10 million. Why pay the extra money when it's not going to? When it hasn't resulted in wins? Save the money, use it for next year.
But you know where the problem is, and we've never. Well, I've had a Sunday package with for season tickets. It's those type of ticket buyers. If they say, well, if they're going to give up in August, that means I got 2 months of tickets I can't get rid of, or don't want to be part of, or whatever. And you have to be careful how you just dump things because people do pay money, and it's not like it's cheap. I'm going to a Mets game next Wednesday. It's costing me $110 for seats at Citi Field.
Are you doing that Audi box thing?
No,
with the food
I wanted to do that. My friends didn't want to do it because it's like $189 now.
Oh, what?
Remember last year I went with.
Are they serving steaks now?
Yeah, I don't know if they're serving steaks. I went with Mandracina last year because he had a friend who had these tickets.
Yeah, I remember. But $189, it better not be. It better not be hot dogs and hamburgers.
And last year the tickets were $114.
Which is still.
And it was actually pretty good.
Wow.
And I called them up after.
I'm sure you did some damage on the buffet line, brother.
I didn't watch the game for 2 innings.
Ugh.
I was inside. I said to
I'm
Steve,
sure.
I go, I'm not leaving this seat. I'm eating this steak right now.
But what were you eating? It was steak?
They had steak. They had chicken. They had
all right.
hamburgers and hot dogs and cannolis and cake. And
I ain't eating hot dogs for $114. I'll tell you that right now.
I didn't pay for it, so.
But that's my point. It's still a $114 ticket. I'm eating steak. I'm eating. Give me. If they got lobster, I want lobster.
I didn't have any
give me. Give me some pricey stuff.
But the funny thing was, though, you had to pay for the bar. But they had ice cream after the fifth inning. They put out ice cream.
I'll tell you what. I'll give you a different story. I've been to 2 Premier League games over in England.
Okay.
Where they have that kind of a package. And I went, I believe it was Chelsea I went to one time many years ago. David Johnson's going to hate this. I hope he's not listening right now, my friend in London. But they had, I forget what the package was called, but you get a meal, like a nice fancy meal in a dining room. They tell you have to wear shoes. They don't, the collar shirt, like it's all like suits in there.
Right.
And I got there and, walked in. I was wearing, dressed nice. They serve you. It's like china, silverware, real nice atmosphere. I wound up sitting with his family, grandfather with his grandson and his daughter. So the three of them were there, and there was a space open. I just sat down because I was like, all right, I was a little late. That was the only seat open. I'm like, do you mind?
Cafeteria style.
So, but the other part of this, and this was only I think I got it for about £60. And the only reason I did it was because the ticket was going to cost me £40 anyway. So I'm like, hey, for 20 pounds more, I'm eating like a king.
Why not?
So why not? So I did that. Then the other thing was, it was pretty much like as much alcohol as you want. It was insane.
They didn't do that at
It was insane. It was, what do you want? Oh, what can I get? Anything. Just whatever you want. Anything. We'll get it for you. So it's cider, Guinness, wine. I didn't ask for champagne. I didn't even know if it was an option, but basically whatever you want. So before the game, everybody's drinking up because it's all, here we go. We got the match. Then at halftime, it's, here's some snacks and here's more booze. And then
that's great.
After the game, it's, hey, and by the way, here's some dessert and throw down as many drinks as you can before you leave.
Wow, they didn't.
It was insane.
They didn't do that at the Hyundai Club. They do kick you out at the end of the game. The desserts went away, but they had desserts. I mean, it was all good stuff. But it's expensive. But then again, if you're going to pay $114 for a ticket,
but that's my point.
You might as well go for the $189.
That was my point. This was
I'm going to spend $40 on hot dogs and beer and pretzels and popcorn, whatever.
This was a bargain. I'm convinced that season that I put a dent in Chelsea's transfer budget with all the booze I drank that night.
Did. It's like
that was my goal, was to hurt them, hurt their transfer budget.
Steve and I, Manderson and I, went to go see Fast Times. It was playing in the theater a couple of weeks ago.
At Ridgemont High.
At Fast Times at Ridgemont High. And
nice.
It's 35th anniversary. And Phoebe Cates is still the hottest babe in the world. And I hadn't been to a movie in a long time. Wow. First of all, it's $13 for the ticket.
Yeah.
Second of all, I think I still owe Steve money.
Probably.
And then, the food was just so overpriced.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was just the place.
It's like going to the ballpark now, going to the movies.
I was like, I'm like, I got to be like Dad was when we were kids. Sneak the stuff down his pants and then walk in.
I saw Star Wars with Suzanne. What was that? 2 years ago, I guess, almost by now. And it was ridiculous how much popcorn was. Popcorn's like $10 a large popcorn, and a soda is like $7. I'm like, where am I? At Citi Field?
Way too much. So anyway, so Derek Jeter, part owner.
Michael Jordan owns a little chunk too.
I don't know. 1-2% for both of them.
Probably. I mean, I would expect that Jordan probably put in less money than Jeter, even though Jordan has infinitely more money than Jeter. Jordan's probably close to being a billionaire at this point.
God knows.
But Jeter obviously, had his main contract from the Yankees was $189 million over 10 years, and he got another 50 or so from his last contract. He's got a Nike deal, nice Nike deal, and he's done a lot of other ads. Like he was a big Ford pitchman.
Right.
So Jeter's obviously not hurting for money, and he just married a supermodel. And in fact, Jeter, I don't know. Shouldn't that kid be born by now? I was just thinking
so,
this.
Yeah. By the way, I forgot who wrote it, and I know. We on this show we like to mention who wrote articles when we actually talk about it, but I didn't see it. In the Hollywood Reporter this week, which I get, great article about basically the second life for Alex Rodriguez, and
as an analyst,
as a businessman, as a guy who is getting away from the drug charges, and
he's moved on. He's doing a nice job on Fox Sports.
It's a very good article. You're right, and he's. They talked about him and Pete Rose, and it's
talk about an odd couple.
Yeah,
I mean, I've heard people say that they have to get rid of Pete Rose because
what?
He's an idiot.
He is an idiot, but you know what? he went if